Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming this afternoon to a rather different gathering than what we're used to. A few weeks ago, Sister Bobby, how are you? Happy Sabbath. A few weeks ago, we read a statement as a church about our commitment to walk with our immigrant sisters and brothers in a very difficult, very tense moment in our city and in our nation. I want to be very clear that our statement was a biblical statement. It's a biblical stance. It is us being faithful to what we believe being a follower of Jesus implies. So that is a stance that we are taking unapologetically. And what we're doing here today is becoming more informed about rights and also about how we as a church can be a safe space, a sanctuary of sorts, right, for those people who might be going through a season of uncertainty and fear and anxiety. We've asked Hermano Sergio, Brother Sergio Infanzon, who I don't think you realize, but I remember you from Montemorelos. I was a young kid, man, when you were out there, and I've been seeing you. I've been looking at your leadership and your ministry, because really it's what it is. Since you've been working in the public square here now for 25, 26 years or so. And most of his work he has been doing with immigrant communities, and specifically doing workshops and conversations like the one we're in. I know he took the lead in our denomination here in the city when the DACA conversations were happening. I remember your workshops, and I remember being there and being fired up and excited to see that one of our own was taking the lead and was walking us through these conversations. So Sergio, thank you for how faithfully you serve your Lord. You are a Daniel in a very real way, serving God, being faithful to God in the public square. So thank you. I know maybe you can give a little bit more about the roles that you've played in local government, but I do want to say that above all his accolades, all his connections, and all his achievements, Sergio is a disciple of Jesus. And that's why he's here. He's a disciple of Jesus who takes his word seriously, and he's going to walk us through this conversation. We're going to be having his time for about 40 minutes or so, and then we're going to open it up for questions. Now, the questions, again, may not necessarily be because you are directly impacted, but as leaders, we know that we are surrounded by people who are directly impacted by these policies. And also, as a church that is smack dab in the middle of Boyle Heights, our neighborhood is impacted by these policies. So we want to make sure that we are equipped, ask questions, make sure that you're thinking as he is presenting, you're thinking of questions to ask, anything that you need to be clarified, and I'm sure we're going to have a good dialogue, good conversation at the end. Sergio, come up. I'm going to pray for you, and then the time will be yours. Loving God, we thank you so much for the opportunity we have to have this conversation. Yes, it's a little different to have this on a day like today, filled with worship, filled with all these other events that we're used to. But God, this is a spiritual matter. This is a form of worship. This is us looking to be faithful stewards of our influence and our posture, our position here in this community, of our leadership. We want to honor you. In Matthew 25, you mark what we do with the sojourner and the travelers as something that we're doing to you directly. So God, we keep that in mind, and we commit today to being faithful followers of Jesus. Thank you, Lord, for Sergio. Bless him. Give him your words. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Let's hear it for Sergio, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, Pastor. Wow. I told him, just tell everybody I'm just a brother from the church next door. So now I need to live to those expectations, right? But I apologize also for the attire. It's too formal, but I just came from church, right? This topic is, I'm very passionate about this. I'm not an attorney. We have been doing this for, as Pastor mentioned it, for about 24 years, but it's based on my experience, right? And everything that I'm going to tell you, I had lived that, and I experienced that. That's why I can tell you that it works, that it's true. Puedo decirles que basado en mi experiencia, eso es verdad, y lo puedo decir como es. We have been doing this for a while, and lately, since 2012, we have been able to do it with DACA. When the president at that time, Obama, announced that they were going to provide this program to the dreamers, the term dreamers existed before DACA. So it was a movement around 2004, initiated between Orange County and Los Angeles. Kids got together, well, at that time, students got together, and they pushed for it. And they were having more and more meetings until finally it was like a nuclear reaction, and they got to Washington, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, we have been able to help about 8,500 dreamers. And lately, we have been doing, I need to announce this because it is important. If you know about any person who is a recipient of DACA, please tell them that if they want to be part of the advanced parole program and go out of the country, come back with an authorized entry, and be able to apply for their adjustment of status, to talk to me, because we are right now having a program. We go to the state of Colima in Mexico about 10 days during the year, and then we come back with these DACA recipients. And when they come back, because now they have an authorized entry, they can adjust their immigration status. It's very, very critical. So people have been doing this program for the last 5 years, but it was very expensive. The cost was about $5,000-$6,000 for every individual, plus airfare and other expenditures. With us, it's only $200. Yeah, and we cover the organization that we created, Southeast Leadership Network. We got some funds, and we covered the tuition for the university. So the recipients, so whoever applies for this program, that right now we're getting ready to go on October. It's from October 10 to the 19, 10 days. It's an academic program. They have to pay for their airfare, the application for the AP, and then whatever money they need to go and spend over there. Food and housing is $200. Those are the $200, and we cover the tuition. So what else can you do, right? I mean, give it to everybody for free will be almost impossible, but we thought about it, Pastor. But anyway, I just wanted to give you or provide that information. If you know about anybody, after I can give you my phone number. You can tell them to call me, because we need to submit the applications before the end of next month. That's what we need to do, okay? Anyway, so let's talk about, well, you probably are more informed than other communities. Immigrant communities, those individuals who recently arrived to the country, has been very difficult right now, and it's gonna be very difficult. Anybody with less than 2 years here, or with a temporary permit, work permit, is gonna be very challenging, because those individuals, the possibilities that their work permit is gonna be renewed, it is gonna be very, very difficult under the circumstances. So you also understand whatever is going on in the country. We have many executive orders, and out of all of these executive orders, truly, only few have been truly implemented. And we need to also differentiate what are those that have been implemented. There are some that have to do with the Constitution, like the right to those who are born here. Those have been challenged in court, and they're going to stay there probably for the next eternity, right? We don't see how these type of situations are going to come out of the court very soon. Now, we need to understand those executive orders that have something to do with administrative policies. That is completely different. And so I don't have the number or the specific title of those executive orders because there are plenty, but I can tell you that most of those that have been signed and have to do with administrative policies have been implemented. And one of them, the most critical for the churches, and this is good, and I'm glad that we have a couple of ministers here, or Pastor, at least I see Pastor B. How are you, Pastor? Because it is important and critical to understand how this new memo works. 2011, Pastor, I think it was also under Obama, they signed this memo identifying those safe locations, which were churches, hospitals, courts, and also schools. And they were very specific about not having any activities inside these safe locations. And so one of these executive orders that was signed on January 20th rescinded that memo and modified those the direction of the administrative policies that were written or they were indicated or directed under the memo of 2011, stating now and that these safe places are, no, it's not that they're not longer safe places. They still have that title, but now immigration is able to exercise common sense to access these places. That's the word that they use, common sense. So what do you mean about that? The memo went from a full memo to only 2 paragraphs stating from now on, if you have to do anything there, just exercise common sense. Meaning that based on the president and based on the czar that is leading this effort, is basically that if they have to go inside a church, inside a school, or any other places, they're going to do it without the protections that we used to have. So what can we do? Let's start with the churches. Right now, the recommendation is this. This is the only thing that legally we could do as a church. Identify 2 or 3 individuals that understand these legal procedures and make sure that they know about the process and how to face potential visits from immigration. So that if you see that these officers come out of their cars and they are approaching the church, they can welcome them at the entrance and ask the right questions. And what are these questions? How can we help them? Welcome. And what do you have? Why are you here? And then if they're there to arrest anybody, they need to have 2 things. One, an arrest warrant and a search warrant. Otherwise, they cannot come inside the church. But that search warrant, I don't believe that any judge is going to sign it. Not right now. I don't think here in California. So and we're going to talk about the difference between the search warrant, the arrest warrant, and also immigration warrant or arrest form, because they also have a form. And when they get to the door, they usually tell you, I'm here with the warrant, right? And they show you this when in reality, it's just an immigration administrative form that is signed by them and not necessarily signed by a judge. So those individuals or the churches need to identify, they also need to be familiar with those forms. And those forms, they have to be very specific. They need to have the name of an individual. They need to have, in this case, if they're coming here to church, they need to have the address of the church. Otherwise, I wouldn't let them in, period. And then if for whatever reason they say, well, this is a public place, okay, perfect. They can only enter a public space. So as a church, besides identifying those individuals that are going to inquire them, and he's going to ask those questions, and he's going to try to let them know that we know our rights and that we know that this is not a place to come to arrest someone, we also need to protect inside the church ourselves by identifying, pastor, those in areas that are private, and we need to label them. So if they come here where the congregation is, it's perfect. They can come and sit down. This is a public space. I think that if we see a fireman or a police officer coming into church, we're not going to stop them, right? I mean, you are here to worship. Perfect. Enter. But you're not allowed to enter a private office. So if for any reason there is someone here or at any church that feels unprotected because they have a warrant or they have an issue or they didn't go to court whenever they needed to go, they can always walk inside this private office, and immigration shouldn't have, they cannot access that place. But it has to be identified as with a sign, private office, right? Private. Otherwise, they can go inside those places. Those are the only protections right now that, according to the memo signed, this executive order that rescinded all of these administrative policies from 2011, are protecting us. And I strongly recommend for us, every church to identify 2 or 3 individuals. We also have attorneys, right, within our congregations to identify these individuals, make sure that they understand the process, and let those officers that we have a process in order to resolve those issues. And if at any point, any one of them have truly an arrest warrant and a search warrant, and they are identifying this place, this church, as the place, indicated on those warrants, then we still need to address it, and we can talk to these immigration officers. Remember, immigration and any enforcement office across the nation is a very discretionary process. They exercise discretion when they implement anything that they do. Like, for instance, when you are driving at 80 when you are supposed to go at 65, any highway patrol officer, they stop you and they ask you why. You answer, well, I didn't notice, so I have an issue at home. They can help you. They can let you go with a warning. Immigration is the same thing. We have stories about, we have known about stories about these individuals that in the past that they have been sick or they have had kids at home and they had asked immigration officers to let them go. It has happened. So we need to keep in mind that even though these individuals, ICE specifically, they are the enforcement part of immigration, some of them don't like that type of work. That's the reality. And so they're going to follow that because that's an order. But in reality, they also understand what's going on in the community, and they can, times, not every time, they can help. So we're going to talk about what happened when I'm stopped on the street, when I'm stopped by, when I'm driving, or if I am at home. Those are the 3 experiences or the 3 situations that we need to understand how it works. And I know that you have a lot of information, but I wanted to start with the churches. So one, identify 2 or 3 individuals that are ready to face this situation, that have the template also, right? Because this can get out of hand. You need to be very patient. 1, 2, that are familiar with the documents. And what I'm gonna do, Pastor, I'm gonna send you those documents. I'm gonna send you a copy so that you wanna print copies for everybody. You wanna keep it. You wanna identify those individuals, make sure that they understand how the forms look. And most of the time, judges don't sign these forms. They just don't. So what they do is they complete the information, general information, and they bring these warrants without the signature from the judge. That's a reality, and that's why you need to take pictures of that, and we'll talk about it. And then number 3, identify those areas that can be private or that you want labeled as private. And if we know about someone or that day we see the immigration is here, put the person inside, because that's the only way that we can protect that individual. So anything else that is taking place around the nation regarding these executive orders is, that the borderline is between Mexico and U.S. is closed. It's basically closed, not completely. That's what we need to understand. So visas, AP programs, advanced parole, all of those programs, they still are there. It's just that now, before they were open completely. The border was open. We knew about political asylum. People were coming through, and they were just at the border stating, I'm looking for political asylum. This is my IDs. They will basically get their information of these individuals, receive them, and then give them a hearing for the future, and then go through the process. That doesn't exist anymore. It's completely closed. There was an app, and everybody coming to the border, they will utilize this app in order to schedule an appointment to go through this process. That app was eliminated completely. All of these programs that existed for political asylum or temporary programs, they are gone completely. Those are the changes that were done immediately. The immigration or the government is trying to utilize local enforcement offices in order to help them, but there are some states that they cannot cooperate with them, and California is one of them. We have 2 acts, the Truth Act and the Values Act. Both of these were adopted. They became law back in 2018 and 2019. And so basically what these acts or these pieces of legislation do is that they tell local enforcement agencies not to cooperate with immigration. When you detain someone, if there is a warrant in the system, you are not supposed to go immigration to come in and get this individual. You cannot. That's what the law in California. So individuals who right now face criminal situations shouldn't stop there and be a victim. They need to call PD. They don't have to be afraid that local police is going to call immigration, because that's not going to happen. And all the local agencies here in the state of California, they know this. And that's why, we have a city going in the south that recently is fighting back the fact that California has been declared a sanctuary state. So this particular city is suing the state because they don't want to be part of it, right? So I wouldn't go there, right? I wouldn't probably visit this city, because then if PD stopped me, maybe there is a chance that they're not going to respect the law. But right now in California, that's how it works. Local police agencies, they shouldn't, and they just shouldn't cooperate with PD. When you're arrested, when you are detained, when you are, even if you are in jail for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, they shouldn't call immigration to come and pick you up. It's just the bottom line. I mean, it's pages and pages of information, but the most important thing that you should know is that that's the law in California. Can they do it? Yes, but then they will be violating the law here, and then the state will be entitled to, they can sue then the government. And you don't want to do that, right? The Attorney General here in California will be our attorney in that case, and they will be suing the federal government. And as of right now, there are so many lawsuits. Even for the one that rescinded the memo 2011 that I just mentioned before, there is a lawsuit right now submitted to a file in court by many religious organizations, many churches, individuals, but the court has not pronounced yet in that. So we're waiting to see if they stop that completely, and then we can go back to at least identify these safe locations as they were before. Also here in California, and this is important because I see some kids here, and for those families that have children here, the question is, so what's going to happen with the schools? Right now, there are 2 pieces of legislation that are moving forward here in California. One of them, SB 48, Senate Bill 48, Lina Gonzalez. She, and her piece of legislation basically is stating that 1 mile radius around the schools to be identified like safe locations, okay? And number 2, that no data is supposed to be shared with anybody. So if that passes, then it's more obstacles for immigration to just move forward inside the schools, churches, any other places that were identified as safe locations. And my apologies. Anyway, let me continue with this. Thank you. So another thing that is going on in the border is that now those individuals that are going back to court because they have a hearing, it's going to be very difficult to find or for their permit to get renewal. So they need to go and see an attorney immediately. They need to seek legal advice. If you go to court, as you know, many people are getting these notices to go back and talk to an immigration, and I think it's immigration detention officer, they're gonna probably be deported. That's the bottom line. We're talking about 1.5 million people who entered recently. Most of them, when their permit expires, if they decide to go to court and then fix their status or reapply or appeal, a lot of them have been rejected already. Not by this administration, but the previous administration, because the truth is that probably we're thinking about 60-70% of them didn't qualify. They requested the political asylum, but they didn't qualify. So they're going to court, they're being rejected, they're appealing this process 1-2 times, and right now I think that under the circumstances they're not gonna go back, and they're going to get a deportation notice, and probably they're going to stay here in the country until finally something happens. That's a reality. So many of these individuals live in this area, and that's why it is important for us to understand what to do when these cases came to our door, here at church or physically at our door, right, where we live. And the best advice that I can tell you or how we can deal with it is for they to collect all the documentation that they have, right, and make sure that they go and look for a good attorney that they can see their options. Not that many, but some of these individuals, for whatever reason, the work that was done to start their process was done by someone else and not an attorney. So they didn't bring the documents they needed to bring, and they don't know what to do right now. So they have, some of them are able to qualify, they will qualify, but they don't know how to put these applications together. So the best advice is, you know about these individuals, go and see an attorney. When I'm also sending, Pastor, I'm sending you a list of resources. I'm sending you, especially here in Boyle Heights, we have so many. There's so many good attorneys here. There's so many organizations that are willing to help. Right now, they're busy, but it doesn't mean that, you know, they're not going to be available. So utilize these resources, and we are creating one page for every single area with Christina. You know, last week we were in Lancaster, different because over there are not many immigration offices, but over here we have plenty. So we'll develop this one page, we'll send it to you, you have it handy in order to provide it to whoever. But at this point, that's the only advice. I'm getting too many calls, and the calls are the same. I received this letter to go back to court. My case has been denied. I appeal it, has been denied. This is my second appeal. There's nothing else we can do. Unless you truly have new evidence to support your case, it's not going to happen. So that's a choice they have to make at that point. And so with that, dealing with their children at school, their children attending school, then single mom or single dad or both parents working at a place, what do we do? This is also a piece of advice that is very important for us to provide to these families. And this is very, 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 very important. They have to identify, and I'm also going to give you this, I'm going to send it to the pastor. It's a caregiver, it's a family preparedness plan. And what it is you need to identify as a single father, single dad, or both of them. If you are in that situation, you need to identify someone that can take care of your kids in case of an emergency. Because if you don't have another name of someone that can come and pick up your kids from the school, guess what? They're not going to be able. And they're going to be turned to, those kids are going to end up on the system, right? And especially if these kids were born here. I mean, talking about those that have been here for maybe 6, 7 years, 8 years, and they had kids here. Now they're probably going to first grade, kinder. So that will be probably the case, and you need to be ready. So what do you need to do? There are different things, but the most simple process is to complete a form that is going to be part of that package. This form is a caregiver authorization affidavit. It's a very simple form. You identify the individual that is going to take care of your kids. You collect all the information about them, social security card, passports, IDs, everything, anything that they have. You put it in a packet, some type of envelope, and you make a copy of that. And you make sure that that individual knows what to do in case of an emergency, especially that the name of that individual is also provided to the schools so that they can pick up your kids from the school. So this form, you may say, boy, it's just a form. No, this form is authorized here in the state of California. under the government code, California Family Code. So it is very important that if you see a family that is going through that situation, they have kids that are going to school and they have to go to work, and they know that they have a order of deportation or they're in deportation proceedings, that they complete this form. It's going to protect them, it's going to protect their kids, and there are other things that you need to include, but general speaking, it's just you need to identify that individual, you need to provide the information about your kids, you need to provide that name of that individual to the schools as the one authorized to get your kids from the school. You need to provide information about their, if they have a medical condition, so that they can have that information. And then general information about what to do in case that you are deported. Yes, Pastor.
Does that form need to be notarized?
No. No, there are different forms, and one of them is just this simple form. Can have maybe a little bit format, but it includes the name of the individual, the name of the kids, their age, the name of the person, the caregiver, and then a signature. And there are two options in terms of how is that you become authorized to exercise, this, or how is that, under which circumstances. And then you as a caregiver will have to select that, because you need to have the copy. And that's the document that you're going to show at the school. This is the document you're going to show at the hospital. This is the document that you're going to show anywhere that is going to give you the is giving you the authorization to take care of those kids.
I have a question regarding the first scenario that you presented regarding anyone coming in with a warrant looking for an individual. What would cause the immigration officer to come into the church looking for that person? Why not going to their home? Why here?
The only reason would be that they don't know where the person live, but they have observed that this individual congregates here or works somewhere else. And in the past, that once the safe locations were established, the way they proceeded, let me give you the example of a school. They said that this is a school, and we know that you have a teacher that, immigration has, he has a search warrant and arrest warrant, he has everything. So what I would do as an immigration officer, I would go and talk to the superintendent. I would tell him, superintendent, I need to arrest a teacher. Okay? So let's talk about how is that we're going to do this. Why here? That's the first question. Why here? And, well, we don't know where he lives, but we know that he works there. Okay? Let's work around this. So you will develop that plan in order to minimize the impact among everybody. But even with the memo from 2011, immigration was able to go into schools, in churches, and all of these places, but in a different way. And to tell the truth, we never hear about it before. I don't think that it took place. That's what I remember. We the story that probably comes to our mind is this lady in the church in Chicago. Remember? I don't know what was her name. That was inside the church, and immigration was waiting for her to deport her. And she was inside the church. She lived inside the church for about 2 years. Yeah. So they just didn't do it. And because a judge, again, I'm gonna tell you this: a judge is not gonna sign that. It's a little bit stupid to go inside a church. It just doesn't make any sense to go inside a church or a school to arrest someone. It's just, it doesn't work. You're going to have hundreds of individuals there, and it's going to create more chaos. But nevertheless, there is a chance. So that's why we're talking about this, the chances that it happens are very, very small. That's what we believe right now, given the circumstances. We don't know if that's going to change, if this situation is going to get out of, the hands of whoever is trying to control it. I don't know if you heard this, but last week, LA Times published an article that supposedly, they were going to start the massive raids here in LA on the 23rd. And that document or the order or whatever memo, whatever it was leaked by one of these attendees to the meeting where they got the instructions. I don't know. We don't know those details. But see, that tells us that there are individuals in those circles up there that they don't want to do this, right? So yeah, we need to know. We need to know how to protect ourselves, how to tell people what to do. The chances that this is going to happen is, especially here in Boyle Heights and White Memorial Church, I don't know if that will be possible.
Sergio, I don't know if you want to shift to questions and answers at this point. I don't want to.
No.
Okay.
No.
So maybe we can hold them. We
Yes,
can hold the questions,
okay.
and then we'll pass the mic around afterwards.
Thank you. So, and then I just gonna one more thing that has happened is that, they're gonna restrict future arrivals for individuals, but the reality is that they cannot stop that completely. They just cannot. They cannot. I mean, people are able to come to the States. They're applying for visas, work permits. They're applying for this. It's just that now it went from having maybe 500,000 people coming every year to maybe 10,000 or 20,000. Like, for instance, the government every year provides about 50,000 visas on the technical field. Our universities are not graduating enough IT or engineers or science people to cover all the fields and all the positions that are opening, especially right now with technology moving so fast. So what they do is they provide these visas. And so that program is still there. And I mean, a couple of friends, they just apply for their visas to come and study here. They were giving those visas. Some others apply for advanced parole to come here from another country under very special circumstances, and those were given the visa. So it's not closed completely. It's just that has been reduced dramatically, right? So that's what we have in terms of all of these situation programs and opportunities that for 4 years and previous to that we had. Okay, so let's talk about our rights. What are the rights that we have? The very first thing that we need to know is that if there are 3 different cases. 1, if I am on the street, if I'm walking. Number 2, if I am detained by whoever when I'm driving, if I'm driving. And number 3, if I am at home, what to do. If I'm walking on the street in a public place, and any individual from a local agency stops me, then the very first thing that I need to know is to ask, and this is for almost every single case, I need to ask who that person is, to identify themselves, to provide a badge, an ID number, identification, anything, but we need to know. We're not going to answer questions just because someone wants me to answer those questions. We cannot, especially if we suspect that those individuals are local enforcement officials. I don't know, any agency. The second thing that we need to know is that, and it's very easy to say it, but it works. And that's why I told you earlier that I have experienced that. I experienced that myself, and it works. So if they ask me for any type of identification or they ask me if I am legal, if I have a legal identification or something that shows that I'm legally here in the country, I don't have to answer the question. And at that point, there are two amendments in the Constitution, the Fourth and the Fifth Amendment, that protects the rights of those individuals. In this case, it's going to be one of those amendments, and I have the right to not answer any questions. And at that point, we have these famous red cards, right, that they're being printed and distributed by the millions, I guess, to every individual that may need it. And what he says here is that I have the right to be silent. I don't want to answer any questions unless I have an attorney by my side. That's what it is. The moment you mention, I want to exercise my right to remain silent, and I don't want to answer any questions unless I have an attorney by my side, then all the questioning is supposed to stop right there. So the next question from any immigration, if it is immigration, then they can ask you many other questions. They can try to continue the inquiring, but at that point, you need to ask if you have been detained. If you are detained, if not, then you can go home. And you need to ask that, if I'm being detained, if you are being detained. If not, I wish to go home. And they should let you go, unless they have an arrest warrant. If they have the arrest warrant, the process is the same thing. They show you the document, and they're going to tell you, look, I have an arrest warrant. I was looking for you. I'm sorry, but I'm here for you. You need to ask for that document. And you need to try to see if everything is correct, right? If your name is spelled correctly, if that's you right there, if he has a signature from a judge. On the street, it's more difficult. You have not that many options. You're going to get arrested if they truly came for you and your name is on that warrant. Nothing else is going to happen, right? Now, two things that you have to do. Don't lie. You cannot lie under no circumstances. And one, and two, those documents, many individuals carry their matricula, right, from consular from Mexico. They carry their passport from their country of origin. Guess what happened? You're going to be sent to that country immediately. Yeah, that's the reality. So we advise, Pastor, for everybody not to carry any identification from outside the country. Otherwise, then they'll know probably that you are from there, and that can expedite the process. Because at that point, you are not supposed to say anything, right? You are supposed to remain silent, and it's their job to find out about everything. But if you have that document, then it's going to be easier. You have to, and the moment you open your mouth and you start saying anything, thinking that they're good, that they're friends, everything you said, they're going to write in a report. And if it is something that you shouldn't have said, then they're going to use it against you. So on the street, that's how it works. Unless they have the arrest warrant, you can go home. They can arrest you, yeah, but it's going to be against your will. You have to, they're going to probably try to intimidate you. They're going to try to push you. If there is someone right there, one of your children, a friend, whoever, that is a U.S. Citizen, you can tell them to record that. And very in a humble way, without confronting the officer, you need to tell him, her, that you want to record that because you're afraid. You are afraid. So that they see and they understand that there's going to be a witness besides those two individuals. If you are detained by police when you are driving and you don't have a legal status here in California, let's talk about California. We have AB 60, right? AB 60 is the piece of legislation that provided driver's license to undocumented individuals. If you have one of those driver's license, if it is immigration, the one who stops the car, you are not supposed to show them the driver's license, because then they're going to identify you as an individual that is under that program. That's the difference. Now, if PD, regular, police officer, highway patrol, if they stop the car, then you need to show that driver's license. Otherwise, they're going to take the car for not, or they're going to cite you for not having a driver's license, and it's going to get worse. So again, if it's an officer stops the car, you need to ask them very politely, because sometimes, that's where the confrontation starts. You need to ask them, who are they? If it is clear, because they have a badge, and most of them, they have a badge right there, if it is highway or any police officer from any city, then you can definitely feel safe to a certain point to show them your driver's license. But if it is someone else, then you can't. Now, what happened with those individuals that are inside the car with me, if I'm driving? They are not supposed to say anything. It's the same thing as if you were detained on the street. You can tell them, I want to exercise my rights, remain silent, and I don't want to say anything unless I am in the presence of my attorney. And that's it. Okay, we don't have to cooperate. And then if you're driving the car and you know the ICE is behind you, then you're not supposed to say anything. The same thing as if you were on the street. I want to exercise my right to remain silent. And then the last case is when you are at home. When you're at home, it's completely different, because if someone knocks at the door, right, and you open the door, they're going to come in, period. They're going to come in. No other question about it. They're just going to come in, and it's going to be very difficult to deal with the situation. So the only protection you have is when, you are able to see who is outside. And again, the process is very similar. You ask that individual who is knocking on your door, who are they? If they're to identify themselves, to show you your badge, to show you some type of identification, you can tell them that you're going to take a picture of that. You can tell them that. And then you need to ask, well, what are you doing here? How can I help you? If they say that I have an arrest warrant, you don't have to open the door. That's the only difference, truly. When they come to your door, if they have an arrest warrant, they don't have authorization to access the house. The only thing that, let's say that they actually are coming for me, Sergio, and I can see when I ask them, well, can you, let me see let me see the order, or they can show it right there against the door, if it is crystal, if it is whatever. I need to take a picture of that. I need to take a picture, send it to someone else, and you can tell the officer outside, I took a picture of that. I want to make sure that it's authorized by a judge, and I just send it to my attorney, even if you don't have an attorney, right? Or I send it to a friend, right? Not to lie. We said that we're not lying. I send it to a friend so that they can tell me if it is true or not. And then if finally, that arrest warrant and search warrant are good because they have the exact information about you and the address of your house, then you will have to open the door. That's it. There is no other exit to that. You have to open the door. But even when you open the door, you still have rights. And you will have to open the door, but you need to tell them, I want to. If they start the questioning, you are free to tell them, I want to exercise my rights to remain silent, and I don't want to answer anything unless I have an attorney by my side. Number one. And number two, you can also ask them or tell them that you want to record every activity that they perform inside your house. And you can also tell them that you, for instance, let's say that someone comes to the door, your little kid goes and opens the door and they come in, because that happens, right? Then if they have an arrest warrant and not a search warrant, you can also stay and let them know that you are not authorizing for them to access. Even though you may say, well, why? Why is that I need to tell all of this? What is the critical part of understanding this if at the end of the day they're gonna do whatever they want to? No, there is a difference. Because if you go to court and if you are able to establish that they didn't follow that, then chances are that they're gonna let you go. They're not gonna be able to create a case against you under those given circumstances. And everything is going to change. And a judge is going to say, officer, do you do this? Do you do that? Do you read the rights? Do you follow this? No, no, no. And you have a video, you have the pictures, you have many things, then the judge is going to basically, you're still going to be part of the system, and yeah, you're going to have to probably go back for the hearings, and a process is going to start. But the advantage is that you're not going to be deported at that moment. That is the difference. And you're going to be able to fight your case in court and go through a due process. So that's why it's very important. Those are probably very simple details but are critical. And then if you don't lose your head and you are humble and you do whatever you need to do, and you state right there what you need to state in terms of your rights, then if they don't respect your rights, it's a different subject. But at least we truly believe, and this is how the law works, you're going to be protected. You're going to have a bigger chance to have a fair due process. That's what we're looking for. And not everybody who goes to court is deported. Not everyone. And I can tell you my case, when I got here, I came just for a month. Remember playing basketball with Danny, right? Many, many years ago. And so my intention was not to stay here, but my mom died a few months after I got here. And I'm the youngest one in my family, and I just went back for the service, and my mom died when I was here, and I told my siblings, I'm going back to the States, and they asked me why. You said that you were in Montemorelos, you want to go over there? I said, no, I want to go back. I want to join the Navy. That's what I wanted to do. And so after I realized that I couldn't join the Navy, well, actually, I don't know if maybe there's no one here old enough to remember that by, what's the name of this, Soto, the next street, I don't remember the street, but there was a recruiting center right there in Brooklyn. And I remember walking inside this place, and these two guys told me, well, they laughed at me when I told them that I didn't have a green card. I said, well, just go and get one. Go and get one. But where can I get one? I remember asking them, where can I? Oh, but just go out there and get one and then come back. And we know that many recruiters, they didn't care if that green card was came from MacArthur Park or La Pacific. They didn't care. No, truly. But, I decided not to, and I did something else. But for many years after that, obviously, my my permit to stay here expired, and then for about 6 years, 5 years, 6, 7 years, I was undocumented, and it was a struggle. But finally, I went to ELAC. I enrolled at ELAC, started doing so many things in our community. I mean, everything that we used to do at church. When I joined the student government at ELAC, I wanted to replicate it. And I didn't know that part was going to help me. So I was getting, we were doing so many things in the community. I was part of this engineering club, and I told all the members, hey, let's do something different. Why always, you always want to have just dances and then selling tortas. Let's do something else. Let's make an impact in the community, a positive impact. So we started doing tutoring and other things. And I was getting all of these certificates. And so when I went in front of a judge, I didn't qualify. I didn't have a chance to stay here here in the country. There was no administrative policy. There was no new law, immigration law. There was nothing. Truly, what I did is that, but there was a change in an administrative policy that now you needed to show extreme hardship in order to stay in the country. And you needed to have kids and a wife. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. So an attorney told me, well, just go, and a friend told me, just try to go through the process and see what happens. But I don't qualify. And then I went to see an attorney, and this attorney told me, oh, no, you don't have anything. There's nothing for you. But I have an idea to get you into the system, meaning go through the process to try to suspend your deportation. And I told him, what do you mean? I don't want to be deported. He said, but I have an idea. This is what you're going to do. I'm talking about 98, 99, around that time. So you're going to go to the border. You're going to drive to the border. Right before you cross the border, it's very different than the way it looks right now. Now it's very nice, and I don't know how many lanes they have. But before, you could go across the freeway. And I remember driving and said, before you exit the country, don't leave. If you go beyond, that's it. You have to, at the last exit on the freeway, just walk toward their garitas, their offices. And what do I do? Well, they're gonna detain you. They're going to ask you, what are you doing there? You're going to tell them that you're undocumented and that you want to see a judge. And then, well, they're going to ask for bail. We're not going to pay for bail. And then they're going to keep you inside this detention center for 30 days. And then after 30 days, by statute, you have to go in front of a judge for your first hearing. And then, well, you're going to call us the day before, and we're going to fly, we're going to drive, we're going to do the impossible to get there because you're going to get deported. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to stop the deportation. And I look at him and I said, you're crazy, man. I'm not doing that. Because back then, people who were detained were not detained by a month. They were detained by a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And the worst thing is that people didn't know where they were. Now we have a system, we have a locator. You can type the information of the individual and you'll find it. Somehow you find that individual, and even the Mexican consulate or your consulate, that's something else that is important to know, Pastor, because we don't know that there is an office called protección, la oficina de protección. You call this office and the government, your government, they can look for you through the system, and they can help you, especially if you have been detained unfairly. That's something that we don't know, and you may think, oh, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to help someone, you need to go through all the resources that you may have. Anyway, going back to the story, I did it the first time. I don't sweat that much, but I was sweating. my heart was pounding. I was afraid. And I don't know why, I mean, I didn't have anything to lose. Nevertheless, I did it, and when I got there, they let me go immediately. They didn't know what to do with me. And they were, calling on the radio, and they said, we have an individual here that is undocumented, and he's turning in himself here, saying that, what do we do with him? And they said, well, we don't know. Send it back to where he came from. And so they walked me back to the car, and they told the driver, because they noticed that the car was waiting there for me, and they told the driver, go back, and never came back. Otherwise, we're going to take your car away, et cetera, et cetera. And so suddenly, I'm like, what happened? I was so afraid to go, and the story is longer. I was so afraid. I challenged the attorney. I even called some other friends who have worked in immigration, and they told me not to do it. But nevertheless, I did it. And so I'm coming back to LA. I called the attorney, and I tell him it didn't work. He said, you didn't go to the border. I said, no, I did. No, you did not. I did. I said, okay, come back. It didn't work. So next day I'm there. We're trying to understand what happened. And because it's part of the statute, it's written right there. And he showed me, said, this is what's going to happen. This is what you need to do. So a friend was there working for that attorney. That's how I ended up going there. And she stated, well, maybe the county of LA and the county of San Diego, their food is impacted. So you need to go somewhere else. Okay, what is the closest county? By Mexicali. And so next Sunday I went. And this time they detained me. But I changed the strategy a little bit. I exit the car like a mile away from the office, and I walk in front of them, this distance from the door to where I am right now. And I walk in front, and no one came up to stop me and say, I don't want to walk inside the office again. And so I did it the first time, second time, third time, and I said, okay, this is the last time. Maybe God is telling me, just go back to LA and forget about this. So the fourth time, I'm walking in front of that office, and then someone opens a window, and they yell, hey, what are you doing here? I didn't answer. I said, wait for me. Young officer comes and said, what are you doing here? He looks at me. I'm not answering anything, remember? I'm not saying anything. And then he goes, oh, okay, I got it. You cross the border, someone was driving you somewhere, they were afraid, they left you here. And say, well, kind of. Okay, follow me. And so he said, we were waiting for you. That's what he told me. We're just waiting for you. We have a lot of your friends. We're going to get a car. You're going to sign a document, and you're going to go back. And I told him at that moment, no, I want to see a judge. And he tried to persuade me, him and 4 other officers, for the next 45 minutes to change my mind, to sign the document, to say something about it, and I didn't say anything. Nothing. The only thing that I said is I want to see a judge. In a very humble way. I didn't even look at their eyes. And they finally, it was dark already. It was around this time, February. Mexicali is super cold. Extremely, extremely cold. And so after probably they obviously got upset, they told me, okay, you don't want to provide any answers. You want to see a judge? Okay, you're going to see a judge. Then they asked me to take my clothes off. They took pictures, handcuffed on me, and did the fingerprinting, and they left me there without clothing, any clothing at all, for about 45 minutes. It was cold. But besides that, the embarrassment, right? And the guys who were there, because there were some people that were detained, when I got there, they were having a good time. They knew that they were going to go back to Mexico and they were going to probably try to go back. They were just watching everything. No one did anything. They were silent. They were just looking at me and following everything that was taking place. So after those 45 minutes, 40 minutes, I didn't know what to do. I mean, it was extremely cold, but truly there was nothing to do. And they told me, dress up. And then another car came, a patrol officer went inside put me inside the patrol car. And instead of taking the highway, they went off the road. And I didn't know where he was taking me. And, it's those moments in your life that you really believe that this is it. Yeah, this is it. They're going to probably leave me in the desert, middle of the desert, and I'm going to die there. Something's going to happen to me. But after half an hour, I started seeing lights, and then those lights got brighter and brighter, started feeling better. And we got to the border, big detention center, and I continued with my position of not answering any questions. And I went to the process. It's a long story. They let me go that night instead of detain me for 30 days. I called the attorney when I got there because I asked for that call. You have to know. That's why it's important that if you ask for an attorney, you need to have the number of an attorney so that you can call that individual and they can help you. So I called the attorney. I told him, I'm in, very happy because I was part of the system. But about 3 hours after, they let me go. And I just couldn't believe it, right? They took me and two other guys. They took us to one of those rest places, right? When you rest areas. And it was, 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, very cold, in the middle of the desert. And finally, I was able to I made it to San Diego, like around 8:30 in the morning. And I got back here to LA around maybe midday, around noon. All I have on me, it was $20. That's it. And the attorney told me, don't take any ID with you. So, and they search, right? They try to find anything to connect me with. What is that you're doing? What are you doing? And they were a little bit afraid. And the fact that I didn't answer any of their questions, they respected every single every single step, to a point that the attorney said, well, you know what, this is not normal. It doesn't work this way. He called LA Times. They wrote a story about me. And then the next day, when the story came out on the paper, one whole page, then that was on Sunday, Monday, early. These stations, radio stations, were trying to find the crazy guy who went to the border, right? Because they wanted to interview me. Challenging times. Maybe right now you will be a hero. At that time, you were not, right? In a church and everywhere, student government. I was, going across the nation, working with student chapters as part of this engineering organization, helping them to establish their chapters around the nation, right? Traveling every other week. And so some of them called me and they said, we cannot have you as part of the organization anymore because we get federal funding and your story is all over the places, et cetera, et cetera. And even at ILAC, I was still at ILAC. Couldn't transfer, didn't have the money, even though I was ready to transfer. I remember that Mr. Moreno was the president of the school. He called me. He said, because we were doing so much in the school that they have celebrated, the school celebrated their 50th anniversary, and they asked the engineering club to help them and the student government to organize the whole event. So this guy called me to his office. I got to his office and he says, follow me, big guy. I'm walking behind him, and we we went inside the main office, the administration, and every single administrator is there. And I'm thinking they're gonna kick me out of here, right? And so he goes, boy, everybody knows here, everybody knows Sergio, and we're familiar with your story. We know what happened. We read the paper, and we want to let you know that as long as you want to, this is your school, right? And so through all this process, you can see that even though it's challenging and it's difficult, God is always there, right? And that's what we always tell people, that if they have faith and they understand this process, they need to trust on the things that they know, but also they need to trust in God. And at the end, when I finally went in front of a judge, it was after April 1st. I'm sorry, I did all of this in February because I needed to be or go in front of a judge before April 1st. That's why I did it this way. And there was a very small window, and see if I had chances to prove extreme hardship. But without wife, kids, after April 1st, it was going to be impossible. So I have my first public hearing, on June. So then I went 2 more times, and finally the last time at the end of July. And we didn't know what the judge was going to say or do. But at the end, I prepare letters of recommendation, certificates, all of these things. That's why involvement, is very important. We sometimes don't realize that for many things, even to get scholarships at schools, many other things. But at the end, when I went in front of the judge, and my case took a little bit longer because the immigration asked the same questions many times, different way. Well, you don't have any family here. One, you don't speak the language correctly. You don't have anything here. So why don't you want to go back? And that's it. And they asked me the same thing over and over, different ways, and I always I told true. So they couldn't say you're lying or something is wrong with your story. And at the end, the judge said, "Okay, enough. Let's. Do you have anything else? Immigration? Do you have anything else to ask?" "No." "Okay. This is what I recommend." And she granted me a visa in a very interesting way, because when she stated that, okay, I'm going to grant a visa to Mr. Infanzon, immigration, they argue, right? And they started arguing and with the judge, and finally the judge asked, are you going to appeal my decision? "No, I'm not going to appeal." "Okay." So turn to me for the first time. The judge looked at my eyes, and she said, "Welcome to America. I would like for more people like you to come through my court." She got up, left, but the best thing came after that. So the clerk, that clerk got up after the judge left the room. The clerk got up, approached me, said, "Congratulations," and I felt something on her hand, right? So, okay, what is it? I'm not going to open it here, put it on my pocket, left the court. The attorney explained to me what is that I needed to do moving forward. And finally, I remember when I was on the bus going to the house back to the house, and I remember, what is this? So I opened the little paper, and it was just a note saying, "Congratulations, if you ever need any help for the things that you do in the community, call me. Here's my number." So God is great, right? So and since then, we have been helping people. That is based on my experience. I do believe that even though right now we're going through difficult times with the new administration, this country is great. I mean, they have those check and balances, they work. If we don't use them, then they're not going to be good for us. And that's why what you are doing is very critical and it's very important. If you can provide this information, convey this information to these individuals that are going through this process, that are experiencing this for many reasons. I mean, I don't want to, we can get into that controversial, or those arguments about why people come to this country, but because this country is great, right? The economics is great. I mean, they have opportunities that other places don't have. And the government hasn't fixed this immigration process. So has last person who did something was Reagan on 86, 83, 84. So you don't want these people come here and by the masses fix it, right? Provide them with opportunity to come. Otherwise, it's not going to work. But anyway, I just want to finish this by saying that there is so much information out there. People don't know how to differentiate. And they look at TikTok, Facebook, social media, and the mental balance or stability of their minds goes crazy, right? Because they see these things. Right now, I can tell you that the arrests that we have had here in LA, there have been minimum. All the, whatever you have seen on the news, or especially on social media, is not true. But that doesn't mean that it's going to stay this way. The president announced that the numbers, or he stated, numbers are very low. I don't like these numbers. We need to increase the arrests. We need to go after these individuals. And I think, what can I say about those individuals that have broken the law, right? I mean, what else can we do about that? Some people have made mistakes in the past, and we need to be forgiven about that. But the problem is that when they come for these individuals, others are going to be affected. So we need to be ready. We need to be able to, exercise those rights that the Constitution provides to everyone. And there's so much information. There's so many other things, but I wanna stop there and see if anybody has any questions. Before that, what we're gonna provide, the whole package that we're gonna provide to the pastor has a copy of this. And I'm sorry that if you still want to get one of these, get it. I forgot to print it in English, but Spanish is very comprehensive, extremely comprehensive, all the steps, everything that I just described to you, including the SAVE plan on the back. And on the bottom, we have names of organizations and the links. You can see there the links of organizations that are ready to help. And this one doesn't have the name of a couple of attorneys, local attorneys that are good, but we're going to include that. And so I'll send you the one in English. I'll send you the one in Spanish. You can make copies. If you want to take one of these, you can take it. If you want to get one of these little red cards, right now I have plenty, I think, for every one of you to see how it looks. And just, try to convey this information in a simple way. But the most important thing is here, this little card. If anybody is approached by immigration, how to exercise those rights in case that happens. And obviously, this caregiver authorization form is critical also. I have plenty of copies. You can get a copy of that. I have it in Spanish. And I can always send the one in English. But if you know any family that may be on that situation, that applies. Someone asked about the notary, if it has to be notarized. No, it doesn't have to be notarized. But it doesn't make a difference. You're going to have to pay money for a form that, according to the California Family Code, is authorized to utilize. And then, so you have this form. You can go and get someone, a public notary to do it, or you can go to court. But that is it's a different issue. If you go to court, you are basically giving away the custody of your kids to someone else, temporarily or not. I wouldn't like to do that. So contact for, let's say that you are deported, you're a mom, dad, you are deported, and then your kids are here and they're U.S. citizens, then you need to deal with Secretary of State in order for them to be able to travel. So the best thing would be to get their passports in place right now in case that happens. On 2016, we faced many of these cases in which people were deported. And I remember in Mexico City, I talked to many people. We went to visit many of these individuals who were deported and left their children here. And the pain is, I cannot tell you how especially moms feel about this and how crazy this was, because there is another situation. Some of these individuals, let's say for the dreamers, when they came here and they were little ones, right? Some of them they self-deported, and some of them were deported on 16. Some of these individuals, they have kids, but because they were brought here when they were babies, they didn't have an ID from here and they didn't have an ID from in Mexico. So the government couldn't help them. They couldn't assist them, and they were living literally in halls. Those places, horrible places in a big city, unprotected completely. And we were trying to help them, but we just couldn't because they were no one. They were nobody. They didn't have any IDs. And so it's a complicated issue, but the more prepared we are before something happens here, the better. Okay? Questions? I know I wasn't planning on telling my story, but
No. Thank you. We'll take questions, not statements. Okay? Not opinions. Let's go ahead and ask questions.
The rules that you gave for us to do as pastors when they come to our churches, does that also trickle down to schools, private and public schools?
yes and no. So schools is a little bit different. Here, anybody can access the door. This is a public space, right? Schools are public, but the access to the school is protected because no one is supposed to go inside the school without providing some type of ID or who are you. So that in that sense will be different, but in that sense that they can have access to any public area inside the school, it is true. And they wouldn't be able to access those offices or places labeled as private inside the schools. In that sense, it's similar. And the only difference is that we cannot stop. We're not going to ask anybody for an ID here to access here. At the school, yes. And with this new legislation that is coming up, then as identifying the schools around one radius of 1 mile around the school as a safe location, then it changes things also.
And about the privacy, so like a pastor's office
Correct.
should be labeled as
Yes.
pastor's office private.
Yes.
And we could,
And they can access that if they have the search warrant for that.
Can the,
But it will be almost impossible.
can the school go on lockdown? Like, would that be an option, and to keep the students inside and them outside?
They could, but I don't know the rules of the lockdown, right? So the imminent danger will be that you have immigration officers outside. I don't know if that will apply. That's more for a superintendent, the school district to determine. But they have their own protocols in order to deal with it, right? Right now, that's what the memo under the new executive order is stating, that if these schools are not safe locations anymore as prevented or protected before, now immigration needs to exercise that common sense, whatever that means. It's not clear. It's just one statement. You read it, it's just one statement. So there's no clear direction. That's why this new legislation and the school districts identifying, labeling completely those areas private or public.
So the only places that are private here in this,
Sister Margie, let's use the microphone.
the only places that are private here would be only offices. How about classrooms?
You can determine that. You are supposed to determine, and I will go a little bit further than that. I will, during the board meeting, I will identify those specifically as, and they will be on a minute. So those individuals who are, identified to deal with this, they would say, okay, these areas are private. You have a search warrant for that. No, okay, sorry. But here, we took there is a vote here that the board took, and I'm so sorry.
Okay, we have a few more hands here.
If you are a U.S. citizen and you get approached by an ICE agent, and they start asking questions, what is your name, where do you live, when did you get into the country? But again, you are a U.S. citizen. Do you remain silent, or what kind of attitude should I take?
Well, a nice attitude, right? It's really up to you, but I will probably tell them in a nice way, officer, this year I became a citizen here in the country. All I have on me right now is my driver's license or this California ID. But yeah, I am a U.S. citizen. And all the interrogation should stop right there, unless they suspect that you are lying to them. And they can continue, but if they continue, then you can definitely sue them. And you're going to win, and you're going to make a lot of money.
Okay, I'm gonna go this way, and then we'll end on this side.
So if they were to come here with the warrant and they had the search warrant and they had the address for the church, if it didn't specifically say like the office, they can't go in the office, or if it has this address, they can go anywhere on this property?
Again, they can go inside a public areas,
All right.
areas that they're access for the public, not a private office. Correct. In the case of, which will be challenging.
All right, I'm gonna double back on that. So you said that they need those two, right? Search and arrest warrant, but is that limited to one individual, or they can have multiple names in that?
I have never seen one with multiple names.
I'm gonna run a simulation, right, real quick. Say Jose is undocumented. Pastor, he's here. They know that he goes to church here. That chapel is public, so they can arrest him there. They didn't have a search warrant. Pastor takes him to his office. It's private. They see him, takes him to the office, but they don't have the search warrant, so he can stay there. Will he get in trouble?
No, it's like being at home. You are at home, and then you have the arrest warrant, but you don't have the search. You just don't let in. That's it. I mean, you
They
probably
see him.
know. Yeah, but there's no. They may, but I don't think they will. They may arrest the pastor because, they noticed or they saw that the pastor was helping. In that category, probably, but it will be very difficult to do it in front of everybody.
What of the pastor's job or their status protects them from being in trouble when helping these individuals?
There is no, the clerical part of it, that definition doesn't protect them from, I don't know about any additional protection because of that. What we know, and again, if we only go to this new memo that states that you need to exercise common sense, I wouldn't come to a church to arrest a minister. I wouldn't do that. Even though I may see the opportunity to do it because I just saw that the minister took someone, the person that I'm looking for, inside this private office. But even at that point, ministers are supposed to do that. I mean, under these circumstances, right? Not legally, but they're supposed to do that. And I don't think that that would be a good exercise of a common sense. I don't know. It's many suppositions, but we have never, ever experienced that. I mean, we don't know. We have never seen immigration going inside a church and arresting the minister because he's protecting, the membership.
You said there's two things that they need, but they can only produce one. They only have a arrest warrant, right? And they know this guy goes to church. Will those three people that this church identified to be the front line facing the immigration people, will they let them in, or is there, or do we have to forget those two, the search warrant and the arrest warrant?
So that's why those individuals who are outside and that you identify, they need to understand this process. This is what I would do, right? So if I am standing outside and immigration comes, I will ask as many questions as possible to make sure that inside people are getting ready for whatever we need to get ready. They're not going to come and push me and say, move out of the way, unless that individual that is inside is an imminent threat to the security of the nation, right? And at this point, the only story we have about someone being arrested, not inside a church, but outside, I think it took place on Maryland, one of these places, the first week after the new president got into office. And this guy was coming out of the church, but he was outside, not inside. And again, I would stop them, try to, I will ask all the questions. I will try to negotiate and tell them, please, we have 300 people inside. I don't want to, I want to cooperate. We want to cooperate. Just tell us, how can we do this better? Because you don't know the answers. You don't know the approach, the strategy that they have. I will ask them, what is the strategy? Help me to make this better. We want to cooperate. But after they show you all the documents and you are 100% sure that they're here for the right person and they're here at the right place and they have all the documents in order, I will still try to do it differently.
Sergio, there's a bit of a misunderstanding with some, so I just want for clarity, those spaces that we deem private property, the arrest warrant and the search warrant does allow them to go in there, correct?
No. Anything that is private, on these places,
In
they
this
shouldn't
property,
be able.
They cannot access it.
No, they shouldn't. They can force themselves. We know about this. They can break the door, the lock, and go inside. But then the chances that you have when you go to court
Correct.
are higher.
Right.
To protect yourself.
But
Whatever that is.
there is that
Yeah.
possibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you for all the information. Somebody approaches, they come inside, they're looking for John Doe. Wait, let me go get John Doe. John Doe, they're coming for you, step outside. Does that keep them from coming inside and looking for other possible people who might be undocumented?
That will be one approach. Cruel, but that will be one approach. Yes. Yeah, that will be, if at the end of the day, this building is surrounded, I know that they're coming for me, I will make the decision. I wouldn't probably force anybody to make that decision. If that individual decides to exit the door and run, I wouldn't stop him. I wouldn't do anything to stop him. And then I will probably let him run. But again, in order to avoid that in a public place, it doesn't make any sense for them to come into a church with 300, 200 people and try to arrest someone that could be even hidden under a bench, right? Or I mean, imagine the chaos and the bad PR for immigration. So what are the chances that that would happen? I don't know. But if it does, the only thing we can do to protect ourselves is that. And again, I want to emphasize, at the door, we can try to, look, we believe this individual may be inside. Let me see if we can find it. Can you let us go and see and talk to this individual, see if there is a better way to solve the situation without you coming inside and disturbing the service, disturbing the situation? If they agree, then it will be your call, right? Of that individual that is dealing with these officers, the minister, and then go inside and talk to someone. I wouldn't do it. I would strongly suggest, probably, I would strongly suggest these individuals to wait for the service or to go somewhere else or try to resolve that issue in a different way. You can negotiate. Remember, if common sense, I'll send you a copy of that memo. I will probably have the memo with me and tell them, look, this is a new memo. I don't think this is common sense. I don't think common sense is for you to go inside and disturb everything that is taking place right now. This is the house of God, and you can start preaching to them. But yeah, so that's why those individuals who are out there or are going to face this situation, they have to understand and discuss those options and come up with ideas about how to stop them. I will probably have a copy of that and say, officer, with all due respect, this is not common sense. It's going to create a chaos inside.
So subjective, though. It's very subjective. Go ahead, man.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for the amazing insight you have given us as a immigrant myself, and I was an illegal immigrant myself back in '89. This has kind of brought back a lot of memories, right? And I was only 9 years old, so this is for me, it was an adventure, but to someone that's older, to experience this is hell. Okay? You had mentioned something, and this is the insight that I wish to ask. Protección, that was the program you said, tracks
Oficina de Protección.
Do you know if you have the insight, because I'm multicultural here, right? We're not just Mexico, we're from different parts of the country. Is this also extends to other countries?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
fantastic.
that's part of what every, they call it Secretaría de Relaciones Exteriores, or it's the equivalent to Secretary of State. They deal with these situations. They're the ones who provide, they deal with the embassy, all the consular services. And so even though, countries like people from Guatemala, Honduras, they're smaller consulates, they still have the service. It's just that they may not be that active as the Mexican, because we have so many Mexicans here, right? And we have, so they have an idea, 50 Mexican consulates here in the country. And they have, every one of them, they have, I don't know, maybe like 16, 17 different offices, and they fulfill different areas, programs, services. They fulfill different purposes and provide different services. One of them that people don't know that much is that one. But if you call, right now, these offices from Central American consulate, they are very active. So Guatemala, Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, all of them, they're very active. And they help their constituents, if you want to put it that way. It's just they don't have the same capacity. So it's more difficult.
Certainly appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Una más.
Okay.
The 1 mile radius, safe spaces, does that get activated by the districts by the school sites, and what does that mean? Can you go deeper into that?
So that is new legislation that was submitted on December. The first week of December is called SB 48. You want to see the SB for Senate Bill 48, written by Lena Gonzalez, Senator Gonzalez. And so she introduced this bill, and right now I think it's coming out of the Senate to go to the Assembly. But once it comes out, the main two components of this piece of legislation is to establish that 1 mile radius around the schools as a safe locations, meaning that families should be safe to go and get their kids from the schools and not wait a mile away or 2 miles for their kids to walk through the streets so that they can take them home. That's basically the main element. And the second one is that they're not supposed to provide any data from your kids or from the parents for any other purposes. And it has other elements. I'm also, when I send the email to pastors so that you can give it to whoever, unless you want to give me your email before I leave, we can also send you this information. But together with that, I'm going to send you the other 2 pieces of legislation adopted on 18 and I think 19 about the Values Act and the Truth Act that basically states that no local enforcement agencies are supposed to cooperate with immigration and . So those are value also, because see, people may be afraid to call the police department for help.
Just want to clarify the question about the warrants specifically. You said they can access the church because it's a public space, first of all, right?
Yes.
So they don't need a warrant to come in at all?
No, on the public area, no.
Okay, and even if they have a warrant, let's just say the warrant is not going to be for the church, it's going to be for individuals? Okay, and the arrest or search warrants are for those individuals' homes? It wouldn't be a search warrant for the church itself?
No, it's for the individual.
For the individuals.
To have access to that place.
So the warrants themselves are not really to access the church. They can access the church freely. That's what the private spaces are for.
Yeah. So and truly the issue about the churches, I think that this memo, the new memo, focus on the schools and churches and hospital as not safe locations anymore, not necessarily to exercise their right to arrest while you are having a service. Is to avoid you as a church protecting individuals and having individuals at any time, like the case that took place in Chicago. So the church, they were having their service, but once the service was over, that lady was living inside the church and immigration couldn't go inside. So I'm thinking, based on this new memo, exercising common sense, that the time that they want to come with the search warrant for the church and also with the arrest warrant is when this is closed and we know, and they know that Sergio is living inside the church and is being protected by the church. Most of that case and situation than when we're having a service. Because when we're having a service, yeah, you're going to ask the officers, what's going on, right? We don't want to disturb this. We don't want to create chaos. But they may say, well, who are you? I'm the pastor here. Okay, pastor, I'm here just for church. And you cannot stop then. Welcome. Do you need anything else? And that's it, right? But you need to have that conversation out there. You don't want to, I have seen police officers coming inside a church, right? You have seen them, right? You have seen firemen. people, officers or staff from the fire department coming inside a church and for different reasons, right? Not because the church is in flames, but I will probably think about this search warrants being utilized when the doors are closed and we know that someone that they want to arrest is inside a church.
Once they come during service and they suspect that somebody is living at church, could they come back later with a search warrant
Sure.
for the church address for
Yeah.
that person as their home?
Yeah.
This would be their home address.
Yeah.
And then at that point, you do have to let them in?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, but again, he has to fulfill those requirements, which is have the name of the person and have and remember, search warrants is not, they're approved not just for individuals. You have probably heard about offices, right? Companies that PD officers, DEA, FBI, they get a search warrant and they go through every single office inside a company. So it's not just for one individual, it's just for the entire place also.
And just to double check, when the search warrant finds you at home, just try not to answer basically, that's it, avoid?
Yeah. And truly, that's when you need to have an attorney ready and you need to notify this individual immediately. And again, the advice is from the attorney is going to be, don't answer any questions until I get there.
Thank you. Okay, we have a couple more questions, and we're going to wrap this up soon. Barry, please.
Sure. You said there was one city in California that seems like they're going to be supporting his immigration efforts. What city is that? Because I'm not from Los Angeles. I'm hoping it's not the city I came from. Oh, it's not San Diego.
Huntington.
Good.
Huntington Beach.
All right, I won't go there. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want to be classified under the sanctuary definition. They want to be out, and they're suing the state for that. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going over there either.
Tengo tres preguntas.
Okay.
La primera, si una persona está en riesgo de ser deportada, ¿puede hacer algo para proteger sus bienes? Poco, mucho. ¿Puede hacer algo para protegerlos?
Sí, desafortunadamente tienes que...
Puede responder en inglés
Yeah.
para que todos entiendan.
Okay.
Sí, it's okay.
So if you are in the process to be deported or under legal deportation proceedings, what do you do to protect your property, belongings, whatever it is? You need to identify an individual and you have to provide this individual the authorization to take care of everything that you own. You need to do that. Your house, access to bank accounts, to anything. That's the risk, right? That you need to identify that individual. But yeah, that's the probably the best thing to do. And it's not easy, but I mean, if you're afraid, then you will have to do it.
Ok, gracias. Mi siguiente pregunta es, si alguien entró ilegalmente en el 2023 y se entregó a la frontera, tiene su segunda cita con el juez por Zoom, ¿qué debería hacer? ¿Está en riesgo de algo?
It's more specific, right? So the question is, what if you just recently entered the country on 2023 and you have a next public hearing is via Zoom? It's safe. In that sense, they know where you live. They're supposed to know where you live, but I will probably attend the hearing unless there is indication that you're going to lose your case right there completely. But even at that point, you can appeal it. It all depends. So if this is the first hearing that you're having after you were provided access to the country, I would definitely attend a meeting, because the moment you don't go to any of these public hearings, automatically the deportation process takes effect immediately. And for you, there are cases for you to prove or to appeal that or to open the case to show proof why you did not attend that hearing is very difficult. The approval for that is very, very difficult. I mean, people had tried. I didn't go because I was in a hospital. Unless you can truly prove that, it's gonna be very difficult for them to approve it. And so at this point, if this is a first public hearing, I will go. But don't go without an attorney.
Yeah.
Right now,
Okay.
don't go without an attorney representing you. That's one of the main mistakes that these individuals are making, going to court and not being represented. And they are submitting applications completed by friends, by other people, because it's very expensive, and they're losing their cases.
Ok. Creo que última pregunta tenía que ver con eso. Igual tienen una cita pronto con el juez, pero ellos ya tienen permiso de trabajo y social. So me imagino que es la misma respuesta, asistir, pero con un abogado.
Yeah, so those individuals who recently entered the country under advanced parole, not political asylum, the ones who access the country under political asylum, they were provided with, some of them, with a work permit and social security number, obviously, but their case is different because when they go to court, they need to sustain that. They need to prove, right, why is that, the judge supposed to prove their request. Advanced parole was provided by different reasons to also people from Nicaragua, Honduras, all of those places. And the circumstances for these individuals who apply in their advanced parole is different. They're not gonna get their permit renewed. It's Colombia, Nicaragua, any one of these. It's either political asylum or advanced parole. Advanced parole, they provided the opportunity to come here because you had a relative or someone who petitioned you, and that's why you were able to get it. Those APs may not be renewed, but the political asylum, if you don't prove it, that's it. You can appeal it. You can appeal that up to, I don't know, maybe a couple of times. But after that, then that will be it. I can talk to you after, and I can give you a couple of the phone numbers of attorneys, local attorneys. You can provide it to the family, can help them.
Thank you, Sergio. Two more questions.
Hi, Sergio.
Hola.
I have a question. We have been through, this is the second week that we go for trainings with the LAUSD. So LAUSD is a sanctuary place to be safe, but we get informed yesterday that is students whose parents are illegally and they are citizens under 18, they need to go to the office or each school to change the emergency numbers, but they're talking about only minors under 18. So what do you think? And my question is if I think so has been protecting for everybody because I'm working in a high school. So high school, we have students until they're 24, 25 years old.
So LAUSD is truly doing an excellent job. I will encourage you to, if you have kids, just for the sake of it, because it's pretty neat. They are covering every single area, providing support, providing resources, name of organizations, name of attorneys, and they're providing specific instructions about how to complete this form and the options that you have to deal with this situation in the event that the parents are deported and what to do with it. So they have excellent, right now, truly, they're very active. And about that, anyone who's a minor is supposed to complete those forms. They have, under these circumstances that may be affected, their parents should complete this form. That's probably what they're doing. And yeah, the emergency number means that they understand that if I may be affected by this, then I need to provide the information and the number of someone else that can come and pick up my kids. That's what it is right now with LA Unified. No, if they're older, then it's different, right? If they are, the process is completely different. They don't have to do this, and they're free to move across the anywhere they want to, especially if they're U.S. citizens. No.
Okay. This is our final question here, and then we're going to have a final prayer.
Just you mentioned there was two acts, Truth Act and Value Act. But what would the PD violate if they called someone of an undocumented? They arrested him, but not for that, right? Like for a crime. But then they found out that he was undocumented. What act? I want to read a little bit of that. What act would they be violating if they call immigration for that individual?
The legislation, the California legislation law, because these acts, they're called acts, but it's legislation. They're bills that were submitted as is the law in California. It's just the name instead of an SB, as we call it, SB Senate Bill or AB Assembly Bill 1492, whatever, they are identified as the Values Act. And I can give you the specific names, but they are, it's legislation it went through the Assembly, the Senate, signed by the governor. And something else that I want to, associated to this, if you are stopped by police and you are truly a criminal, they're not going to let you go. I mean, period. We know that it is on the policies and procedures. I work for a city, and I constantly talk to the chief of police about this. We recently had a conversation, and he told me, Sergio, it is here on the policies and procedures in the city. This is how we are supposed to proceed. If we arrest someone that is being, that had problems for a while, and is truly a criminal, we're not going to let him go. We're going to definitely call immigration, and we're going to follow the protocol based on the Values Act, the Truth Act, and our own policies and procedures for the city.
Sergio, thank you for such valuable information. Thank you for the time. And what church do you go to, Sergio? Right across the street, right? So if we need you, we just shout and you come back. And I consider you a friend, and I like to brag about my friends, okay? We saw the origin story of Sergio and how God opened doors for you here. Can you just briefly tell us, because I think there is value to naming the places that God has taken you in local government. Do you mind just giving us a little bit of what were you doing at Bell Gardens, for example? What were you doing there, and what are you doing now in Huntington Park?
Okay. I think, yeah, I have. Yeah, so after I had a chance to get my visa or, a green card, I transferred to USC, but I continue with the work in the community. And a few years after, I think when I was at ILA, I got involved a little bit into politics, helping in campaigns. I helped during the first campaign for Villaraigosa when he ran for assembly, when I was a student at ILA. And that's how I started, these connections with different individuals. I ended up, getting involved on these issues because I just love it. My first job, unfortunately, he did many good things. You probably remember Jose Huizar. He was the council member for this district. The first job that I had related to government was as his campaign manager when he ran for school district. This is the year 2001. And from there, got involved in many other campaigns. In 2009, I decided to run for office, and I did it when I was in Bell Gardens. I was there for about 5 years. I became the vice mayor, and it was a very nice experience. We did a lot of work.
Amen.
We did a lot of good work, and I didn't continue because it's very challenging. Believe me, it's you can do many good things in the community. You can push to do that, but then your colleagues, not all of them are on the same page. And truly, at the end, you probably hear about this mayor who got killed by his wife, shot. Mayor Crespo. I served with him, and it was so challenging. It was so challenging to deal with these individuals that didn't have any principles or values. So a lot of stress, and that's why I decided not to continue, moving forward. But God has taken me to many places, the White House, Congress, so many places that we have visited. We received invitation from when I was here as a student by President Clinton to go and visit the White House. Many programs that we were doing with Pastor Rojas many years ago. And I worked for the city of LA for Mr. Cedillo, also got in trouble, but dealing with the driver's license and the California Dream Act. California Dream Act provides funding for dreamers to go to the university. They get paid they get financial aid. And so, it has been great. Sometimes I don't believe that I have lived all of this, but God has been extremely merciful with me, and I'm extremely thankful for that. Right now, I work for the city of Huntington Park, and I do community development. I'm the director of a department, and we're also trying to make a difference. City Council adopted rent stabilization ordinance, and I'm in charge of that program right now to help people, and especially those landlords that overcharge rent and many other things that are not responsible. And it's a lot of work, but it's great that we're there and we're trying to do our best. And I think that's going to be my last job. But we continue doing work across the nation. I work with the Mexican government. We promote the Mexican vote here, because Mexicans can vote here to elect their president, many other elected officials. And I have been in places that I never thought I will be in Mexico because of all of this leadership, and mainly working with youth. So we empower youth. The best story that I have is when I was a vice mayor. I recruited a group of high school students, and every Sunday, every so often, I will bring them, inside City Hall. I will tell them about government, about the importance of getting involved, civic participation. And one of these students, high school student, became my mayor 7 years after. Alejandra became mayor and an attorney. So based on the leadership, and that's what we continue doing with the Dreamers. So
beautiful. Sergio, come up here. We want to pray for you. I've asked Pastor Lem. Yeah, we can clap it up for him. Can we clap it up for him? This is Pastor Lemuel. He's one of our pastors, and I've asked him to pray for you, what you're doing, and to pray us off.
Most gracious and kind, loving Heavenly Father, right now we are indeed thankful for the fruitful, valuable information Brother Sergio had imparted to us. Grant that we'll be able to be of help to those who are in need, and that we will provide them guidance through a path that they will be able to be documented and be protected, protect the vulnerable and those who are in fear. I pray, loving Heavenly Father, bless Brother Sergio in his ministry, of helping these people. In the dear name of Jesus, I pray. Amen and amen. May we have your, do you have a calling card? We may be able to contact you or, yes.
There's going to be a sign-up sheet. I think it's already gone around. Please put your information. We'll make sure to send you the stuff that we need. If you're watching online and you would like to contact us, we will make sure that you get it as well. Thank you.
Email is very, very clear.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do it.